People, deluded. Arsenal and Crystal Palace draw 1-1 and both take a share of the spoils, obviously drawing the game. For Arsenal, it's sad. Palace have taken 4 points off us this season. On reflection, a point is a fair result. Arsenal fans, we know it's going to be a tough season. We know we've really got nothing to scream and shout about. We know it's a long journey before Arsenal can return to being a Champions League club and doing all the other things I'm sure as a supporter you would like to see us doing. But the most important thing is getting on that journey, is beginning that journey in that process. And I am quite confident with Arteta, but games like this, first in the second half, it shows you we've got a long way to go. We're going to get into it, but why we didn't win this game is first and foremost, we didn't smell blood. Palace was sleeping today in the first half. Should have tried go 2-3-4 up. I feel we played good football and we played alright, but really it was scrappy. Palace was sleeping, like I said. And beyond Aubameyang's chance, what real clear-cut chances were there from Guita? There was a couple, and it was a lovely 18-19 pass move for the goal we scored, but really we didn't really do anything. Now, there were some positives. Depending on how you look at it, I think Luiz was probably the best playmaker on the pitch today, in my opinion, with them balls out to the diags with Kolasinac and whatnot. But going into the game, I had no complaints over the lineup. I know many people, myself included, Lacazette could start and had no issues, but probably Lacazette would be the one to give way for Martinelli. Ozil seems to be playing every game this week. Torreira, fingers crossed his injury, if it is an injury, is nothing serious, but he's in the team. Within the dynamics of our team, there's not too much shocks in regards to anything. The only thing that really would throw Arsenal fans now is it going to be Pepe or Nelson? But it was an unchanged lineup, no complaints over the lineup, very much equipped to give a good account of themselves against Crystal Palace at Selhurst Park. And you lot know me, like I said, I'm never confident playing at Selhurst Park because it's one of them grounds the fans are very close. The Palace fans are always showing what they can do and always noisy, and we did our best to quiet them in the first half. Second half, they came out in full effect. First half, I feel we started well. Not to be a demi-downer, but I'm not quite sure if I can pinpoint it as to whether it was actually us starting well or Palace being so bad. Ayew deserved his goal today purely because as a striker, he was chasing lost causes. Players are from Crystal Palace, it's only one man pressing or two man. There was too many gaps. And clearly, I'm not going to say clearly because I don't know, but maybe instead of what you typically see teams doing is pressing us and seeing them discourage us from playing out from the back. Initially, they were just sitting off and seemed to concede us playing out from the back to retain their shape. And if they've been working on that in the week with Roy Hodgson, then fair play. But it just looked poor. They were giving us way too much space. Kolasinac down that left-hand side. Literally from the first minute, you could see what we've been working on. Luiz, anytime he had that chance, and he was doing quite well. Balls over the top, but in particular to that left-hand channel, where typically Aubameyang and Kolasinac were doing quite well down that side to overload on Crystal Palace and create things. And we were doing all right, man. Like I said, literally the first minute we've earned a corner. I wanted to see a fast start. I wanted to see us kind of quiet their fans down. I wanted to see these things, and I'm seeing it. We weren't playing amazing and things like that, but what I'm asking in terms of standing up and being counted, I'm seeing that. And relatively early on in the game, we take the lead, in the 12th minute or so. Luiz, listen, everybody involved in the whole 18-19 pass move deserves credit, but Ozil, I feel, was quite anonymous today. But him getting on the ball in that phase, Luiz, the initial pass, I know Aubameyang had the end of it, but you can't discourage how difficult that is to make that run. The actual first touch and the finish in real time from him. It's lovely from Lacazette to obviously take a touch and kind of look up and play the ball. Whether there's fortune or not, it's a lovely move, and that's Arteta ball in its finest. And that's something I want to see as the blueprint. Like, we're doing that a lot of the time, but we've got a long way to go before we reach them levels, people. What can I say? We've started off well. I do think we can look to have more opportunities and test Palace a bit more as we should have. But what can I say? We've started off early. We've got the goal. We're looking decent. It is a bit scrappy. Elements of the game are flat from both sides. I do think it's lacking any real tempo from both sides, and it needs to liven up. And for me, like against the Chelsea, in the Chelsea game, we need to score more goals, because at least for this season we're going to have to somewhat, game management and defending obviously is improving and needs to, but we're going to have to somewhat rely on over scoring teams, or it sounds dumb, but scoring more goals than the opposition, because that is how you win football games, because we can't defend these 1-goal leads and stuff, especially away from home. You saw it against Chelsea where we shagged ourselves. We owed it to ourselves to kind of score some more goals and give ourselves a cushion, because I can't believe our luck. Palace are quite woeful and are yet to wake up. Maybe it's the early kickoff. Zaha, one of the most deadliest 1v1 wingers in the league, has no intention of taking on Maitland. Now it's like, Zaha is a brilliant footballer, but I couldn't believe my eyes. He's passing it backwards and the fans are groaning at him. Like, he's not on it today in terms of that. He's passing it backwards. Ayu's chasing lost causes. I can't believe it of such people. So we need to kind of wake up and score more goals, because it's only 1-0. And the longer it goes on only being 1-0 and we don't smell blood or raise it a little bit, the more Roy Hodgson is going to get annoyed and tweak things. Like you saw, they started to press our defence, and like you saw with Socrates in particular, like two would press him, because they know to a degree in terms of ball playing, he's the weak link in defence. They start to press together. The longer it goes on, the more they started to wake up, and complacency goes out their game. And Palace players and fans obviously knew, but the players start to realise, oh, we're playing a game of football here now. We need to win. And that's what we need to kill, because as long as the game goes on, that's what happens. And towards the tail end of the first half, 30th minute odd, you could see that Palace were waking up. There was one chance, Leno, heart in mouth moment, he's kind of spilt the ball. There was a couple opportunities Palace could have done better, but largely we did okay. I saw an element of managing the game as well in the first half towards the end of it as well. We're playing well, especially down the left-hand side, but really I feel we're doing okay, but we need to up it. Half-time, my thoughts, if you let me switch people, is that we've actually looked decent defensively. I feel Luiz and Socrates in particular. Kolasinac, I've already praised him as well. We've looked okay, but is it us playing well or is it Palace being bad? The age-old saying is it's only 1-0. We need to go out there and score another and kill the game off, because like we've been in this scenario under several managers now, people, where it's 1-0. You never know what the second half is going to bring, and you have to wonder what is said at half-time with both sides. Palace boss Roy Hodgson must have been tearing into his players because they're really respecting us too much. But really, the result of them finding themselves behind is not because we are playing amazing. It's because they shot themselves in the foot. As an Arsenal fan, it's easy to see when other people do that. From Arsenal, we've done well. We couldn't really ask more. The only criticism is we need to score a bit more goals because of the eventuality and what actually played out. Second half, Palace woke up, people. Can you really be surprised? It became a bit end-to-end. Can't lie, Guendouzi played okay when he came on, but I can't lie, I did feel with Torreira's injury, when you saw Guendouzi coming on, that this was potentially going to be a turning point or something that was going to mark the turning point, because I did feel they started to overrun us in midfield. It's no coincidence you saw Coyote start to burst forward a bit more. You saw Maya come into the game in particular in the second half. It did become a bit more of a slugfest, and we risked to it. We did what we could. You could say Palace looked like they would score people. Zaha decided to wake up and he must have had amnesia and forgot who he was as a footballer, people, because he started to take people on. Even though I feel Maitland-Niles did well to get today, they started to play football, and obviously there was a bit of good fortune and misfortune from an Arsenal player perspective with the ball coming off David Luiz. But Palace have woken up, they fed off the fans' energy, they've reacted to whatever Roy Hodgson said, and Ayew, between it being an own goal from Luiz or Ayew's goal, it's 1-1 at this moment in time. I still think we can score, people, but it's looking like it can go either way in the second half, in my opinion. Especially earlier, the first half of the second half, especially, people, the first 20 minutes of that half was very, very nervy for me because it felt like it was going either way. Obviously, with Aubameyang's injury, it became damage limitation, and a point on reflection is not the worst of results, people. Aubameyang, do you know what? I can see how it's given for a red, people. I saw Aubameyang distraught, and we know Aubameyang is not someone that's going to go out there to intentionally damage someone. Obviously, he's the captain. He's scored after a brilliant move. He doesn't want to let us down. Listen, it's a reckless challenge from Aubameyang on reflection because he is quite high. We have to keep it true. I don't think there's malice behind it. He's trying to win the ball, but it's reckless. It is a red card. Forgive me, people. I heard the commentator say he'd missed one game, and I also heard 3. So I don't know how much games Aubameyang's going to miss. But together with Torreira, assuming that's an injury, whatever happens with Torreira, what happens with Aubameyang, Arsenal are in it now, and we've lost 2 important linchpins of our side in this game now, really and truly, and it's become damage limitation of sorts. Ozil's been anonymous, and not even because Ozil's not anonymous. We're down to 10 men. Someone's have to give way. Creativity is a luxury. Ozil's a luxury player. As much as I love him, we have to take him out. Martinelli, I fully supported that. He should have started for me, but he fully supported it because of obviously the energy he brings, and Martinelli gave us that to a degree. I fully got that. Lacazette was obviously going to play. Must admit, I would have thought Pepe would have been the one to get subbed people. Cause I didn't see too much from Pepe today. I think he didn't play appalling. He got forward. He did a couple good passes, but I don't really feel we played necessarily poor today. But I don't feel we played well today. And you could see it was smart from Arteta. You could see that, okay, a point, we need to kind of walk away with a point. You could see it with David Luiz time wasting with moving the ball. Luiz had a good game for me beyond the where we all potentially could have done better for the goal. Socrates saying he got elbowed. Arteta bringing on Lacazette for Nelson. You could see that a point was better reflection. I will say, obviously, we should have managed the game better, and we've gone from taking 3 points to dropping 2 and only taking 1 point, and there were several things we could have done better. So really, there's no positives. But on one hand, I did feel it was a better performance being 10 men down. Not looking for positives where there are none, but I've seen Arsenal really capitulate at 10 men down, and the way Palace were playing, I'm sure Palace fans expected to score a second card. They've seen Arsenal, that happened to Arsenal numerous times, but it is what it is, people. It sucks to obviously not take 3 points. We dropped 2. Considering the circumstances in the second half, a point's the best result. Palace, I feel, after waking up in the second half, deserved the point. They've taken 4 points off us this season. They firmly have our number. For us, I can't lie, I don't know who we have next, people. I'm not even going to sit here and lie to you lot, but one thing's for certain, we're going to have to do it without our top goal scorer and captain Aubameyang. Fingers crossed Torreira's back as quickly as possible, and it's crazy because we've seen centre midfielders linked with moves away from this club, people linked with coming in. I and you lot have been saying we need a central midfielder because if Torreira is ever suspended, touchwood, God forbid, injured, like what might be the case, we're in a bit of trouble. And I like Guendouzi. I feel Guendouzi had a better performance today, but I feel Torreira and Xhaka, their pivot under Arteta so far is substantially better than anything Guendouzi can offer us right now, and there's a significant drop off away from or Willock or maybe Sabas can play his way into the side now. But in terms of what Torreira gives us, there's no one that can sit in front of the defence, or he doesn't exactly just sit, but there's no one that gives us what Torreira can give. So that's probably, obviously, on top of dropping 2 points, I'm gutted about Aubameyang being out for anything from 1 to 3 games, and at this moment in time, I haven't seen no post-game comments from anybody, so I'm hoping it's positive for Arteta, for Arteta's case in relation to Torreira. But for me, people, with injuries, I always hope for the best, prepare for the worst. So I don't know, so don't listen. I'm not being no bearer of bad news, but I'm assuming he's going to be out for anything from 2 weeks plus, in my opinion, because Torreira's hard as nails. He wouldn't come off unless it's something serious. The way Torreira is, he's the sort of man that potentially will even start games when they're not 100%. So I don't want to speculate because, again, I don't know, but is it a thing where body's on the line for the cause and the manager who you really love might have aggravated something, or it could have been when he hit his own teammate and stuff, and purely just an impact injury, which I hope so, but I am quite nervous for that because we need Torreira to have anything close to a positive, to mention positive season and Arsenal all in the same sentence. We're going to need Torreira. But for that, people, I'm done, man, in relation to Arsenal versus Palace. That's my thoughts. Please comment. Would obviously love to hear your comments and your opinions and how you saw the game. Check out my other content. Yeah, man. Obviously, don't forget Tyrese John-Jules is likely to play for Lincoln against, is it Shrewsbury Town? He could be playing. I'm off to go and see if I can find a stream for that. Also, I'm going to see if Huddersfield Town have included Emil Smith-Rowe in their lineup. But that's my Saturday. Obviously, I'm waiting for Spurs in Liverpool too, but that's my Saturday. I've watched my team in the early kickoff not get 3 points. It is what it is. On that note, DG. Bang.